welcome to episode 10 of Did You Bring the Hummus podcast. I'm Kimberly, your host, and I'm super excited to be here with you today. Did You Bring the Hummus is a podcast to help you go vegan. Every 2 weeks, I'll share a new episode discussing all things vegan. Most importantly, we'll talk about how to embrace this meaningful decision with fervor and fun. Episodes post every other Monday on your favorite podcast app. Before we get started, I have one very important question for you. Did you bring the hummus? Today, I bring you a great interview with David Williams. David, now in his mid-60s, is a New Jersey native currently living at the northern Jersey Shore. He has an MBA and spent his career working for well-known brands in the New York City metro area. He became a vegetarian in May 1979 and a vegan in January 2012. He has traveled widely in Europe, East Asia, and Southeast Asia, and makes veganism one of the centerpieces of his travel experience. Being particularly attracted to the spicy cuisine of places like Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand, he considers those some of his favorite destinations. As he nears retirement, he hopes to do more vegan activism and writing on the subject. Here we go. I hope you enjoyed this interview. Hi, David. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Did You Bring the Hummus is a podcast to help the listeners go vegan. So, I like to always start with the first question of, what was your vegan journey? Tell us how you got here.
Well, I guess it started in the 1970s. I read a book by a Buddhist monk, Roshi Kapleau, who had a monastery in Rochester, New York. And as I was really completely taken by what he had written, and he had devoted a number of chapters to why one would be at that time vegetarian. I actually went to his monastery, and all the food served there it was actually vegan, although, as I say, it was referred to as vegetarian at the time. After that, I made the decision, and it was May of 1979, to stop eating meat, fish, anything, like that. But I did continue, as vegetarians do, to eat dairy products and eggs. And I didn't really see the harm in it. I lived my whole life in a more urban area, and there were no farms around. I'd never seen chicken farm, or I just assumed that, there are happy cows and happy farmers, and they take the milk and the eggs, and the animals are really pleased to have us do it. And I never really gave it much thought. I didn't think there was any harm in it. And I stayed vegetarian for many years without really knowing that dairy and eggs also cause great harm, and we have no right to use animals anyway for any purpose. So it wasn't until actually the age of Facebook. I think I joined in 2008 or 2009. And in the first 2 or 3 years I was on Facebook, I started encountering a lot of vegans, and I joined some vegetarian groups, and there would be vegans in there, and they had many different approaches to putting out the information. Some of them very militant, and others more like, why don't you just give it a try, and very like a little less militant about it. When I would push back and say, well, what's the harm? And then all of a sudden, I was deluged with information and photos of male chicks being macerated, and what free range looks like in actual fact, where many hens are just crowded into a very small area, and even though they're not in cages, it's just horrendous. After a while of seeing this and talking to more vegans, and then meeting a vegan at my workplace, and learning more and more, by January of 2012, I was ready to make the switch. And so it took me a couple of years of being sort of contact with vegans to get the full picture. But when I did, I said, well, I have to at least try it. So in January of 2012, I told my my partner at the time and my family and friends, and that I was going to try this just on a trial basis, see how it worked out. I might still, eat some cheese once in a while, or so I sort of, cushioned it a bit so that if I fell out, people wouldn't really think, well, see, it didn't work. But after I started eating vegan and learning more and more about it, it became became I realized how easy it was and how delicious the food was. Why did I wait so long? Which every vegan asks, right? Why did I wait so long to do it? So it was January 2012 when I actually became vegan, and so now we're in 2021. So I'm going to be coming up on my decade as a vegan pretty soon.
That's very exciting. When you told your family and friends and your partner, what was their reaction? How did they take it?
They weren't really surprised because they knew that I, even as a vegetarian, that I thought I was doing it for the animals. So I never did it for any other reason, weight loss or any of the other reasons people give for it. I mean, I did it for the animals. I just didn't realize that I hadn't gone far enough. So
Mhm.
so everyone knowing how I felt and knowing that it was very important to me, nobody was surprised, really, that I was taking this additional step.
I was a vegetarian for a long time too before I went vegan. And then I went vegan for a little bit, and then I always say I'd get lazy, and then I'd start eating cheese. And then it would be like another year or so before I got back on that.
Mm.
So many people kind of have this story, right? And we start in one place, and a lot of us have started as vegetarians. My husband went vegan like right overnight, but he had been living with me for 8 years, and so he already had all the resources and the
Right.
information, and it was he had someone cooking for him. So it was like minimal effort, right?
That's an easy way to do it.
Yeah. But yeah, when you're first learning, and maybe, some listeners don't have all the information yet, to go vegetarian and work your way through veganism is not uncommon. What's your favorite thing about being vegan?
Well, my favorite thing is the reason why I went vegan is I feel some sense of relief that I'm no longer harming animals, or at least that I'm minimizing the harm to animals as much as I can. That's my favorite thing about it.
That's my favorite thing too. It feels incredibly powerful, and that's what I say about being vegan. It is the single most powerful thing I have ever done in my life.
I think that's true for me as well.
Yeah, it's like we make decisions all day, every day. And at the minimum, you at least decide what you're going to eat every day. So, minimum, we make three decisions every day that can either hurt or help,
Yes.
or hurt or not contribute to the hurting. And so, to me, it really is the single most powerful thing that I can do every day. I'm like, wow, we think we're only one person, but holy moly.
Yeah. Makes a difference, especially over the span of your lifetime. Think of how those choices add up and make a difference.
Right. And maybe even sometimes you making those choices then will help influence someone else to make those choices.
Absolutely.
That's that's one of my favorite things too. So I guess I have two favorite things. Is, I look at my mom or my husband who both went vegan after I did. And so much of it was just being around me. I'm not really in your face about it, but obviously it comes up because everything I do is around being vegan.
Same
You
here.
can't escape it.
Same here.
So, on the flip side of that, what do you think is the most difficult thing about being vegan?
I think the most difficult thing, and there are a number of difficult aspects, but the most difficult is dinner invitations.
Mm.
People, friends, acquaintances, even some family members, they really mean well, and I don't want to feel in any way ungrateful or negative about what's happening. But I know that people who aren't really knowledgeable about veganism and and what a vegan would eat or not eat sometimes might include things that aren't vegan because they don't really fully get it.
Mm-hmm.
um, or they might do things like, and if I see this, it just really weirds me out. They might take the spoon that they're using to like stir their meat around, and then they'll stir the
Yep.
vegan sauce with it, and because they really don't understand that we don't do that. And what do you do when you're at someone's home and they've gone to all of this effort for you, and then you see that, you know, well, there's only a little bit of cheese in there, or you see them use a utensil in the vegan thing that they just used for the meat dish. What do you do in those circumstances? It's very uncomfortable. I sometimes will be very reluctant to accept dinner invitations because of it. And that's one of the most difficult things for me socially, I guess, because I certainly don't want to offend anyone. And, somebody's willing to go out of their way to learn how to make a vegan meal or to make something that they know is vegan for you.
Mhm.
But when you know they're not vegan and they don't get it, there are these sort of things that are around the edge that just make you want to cringe. And then what do you do? Do you refuse to eat it after you just watch the meat spoon go into your food? Do you refuse, or do you just eat it and say, well, I guess, it's. And then next time somebody asks you to come for dinner, what do you say? It's like, so that I think is probably, over the course of the last 9 years, has been the most difficult thing for me to deal with, is that sort of social aspect of it. Yeah.
I've certainly been in that very same position, watching that spoon from the meat dish go right into the vegan
Hmm.
dish. And it is so hard, but sometimes it can be a teachable moment, right? And so you have to know who you're working with here. So some people, if you for, I've had it both ways where I've been like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't eat that." You just kind of put some meat juices or whatever into
Yeah,
the vegan dish that you worked so hard to prepare for me, and I'm so thankful that you did, but I can't eat that. We don't cross contaminate, and sometimes they'll take it and they'll be like, "Oh my god," and then they're mortified, so then you have to have this like, "Oh, I'm really sorry, but," and you kind of make them feel better because they did try really hard,
they did.
right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to eat it.
No. No. No.
So, so if they're willing to hear, if they can hear it and not be offended, then maybe next time you can trust that if they invite me again, like, we've had this interaction, and they're probably not likely to use the same spoon. And then other people, maybe this is going to create a rift and they're going to be really upset that you said no. What do you mean you won't eat it? Who cares? It's just a little bit. It's not going to hurt
Exactly.
you.
Exactly.
Like,
You're not going to die eating.
yeah. And they're not wrong. If you eat something that has a little bit of meat, no, it's not going to kill you, but that's not the point.
It's not the point.
Yeah. And it's not that I think I'm so pure and there, because I've heard that too. Like, oh, you're so pure. What does it matter? Just eat it. It just, I don't,
I've had that comment, by the way,
yeah.
that the purity comment, and I say, well, and if somebody goes there and they really want to challenge me on that, then I'll say, okay, if I take that spoon and swirl it around in the toilet bowl and then put it in your food, would you eat it? There's not much on there. Probably it's not going to kill you. Not going to hurt you. But how does it make you feel about eating it after you watched me stir it around in the toilet bowl? So it's not about purity. It's about, this is not, vegans do not consider meat or dairy and those things to be food. It's
Right.
not food to us
Hmm.
any more than, the without being graphic, the toilet bowl
Yeah.
contents aren't food for you. And so it's not food. And if you, I don't generally go there unless somebody really starts challenging me about, oh well, you're so pure, as though I'm being ridiculous. It's like, well, no, you would be ridiculous too if that just came out of the toilet bowl. So yeah.
I also once had an experience where I had forgotten to mention, which I don't even know how that happened, but I was invited to a baby shower for a girlfriend of mine by someone that she worked with. So I kind of knew this woman, but I didn't know her very well.
Mhm.
And I said I was, and it was like a joint thing. So my husband came too, and he was vegetarian at the time. He went vegetarian, went back to eating meat, then went vegan overnight this last time. And he's been vegan now a little year and a half, I guess. But so we show up at this party, and I'd totally forgotten to mention, and everything is covered in meat and cheese, even the salad, bacon, cheese. The dressing was made with bacon and cheese. So I kind of took the hostess off to the side, and because she noticed we weren't eating, we weren't like we didn't get up on the line to get food, and I just mentioned, oh my husband and I just said we're both vegan because that's easier, right? We're
Mhm.
both vegan, so we're not going to eat. Just in case you were wondering why we're not eating. She says, "Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't know." And then like her husband was like annoyed. And I get that, right? It was definitely on me to have told them. And they did wind up steaming us some lovely broccoli. So we had huge bowls of broccoli. So we did get to eat with everybody.
Okay.
But that's another thing too, I think people don't consider when you're invited somewhere, that it's just as important, as much as we want them to respect what we're doing and what we're choosing to eat or not eat, that it's important for us to remember to let them know if they don't know, or remind them if it's not a common thing, if we're not always over there. Because I also get the question, and maybe you get this too: are you still doing that? You still vegan?
Yeah. As if it's a fad.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have found it to be useful in managing this problem is to offer in a very almost aggressive way that, thanks, I'll bring some things that I can eat, so
Mhm.
please don't go to any trouble. I'm happy to do it. And if you'd like, I'll bring extra, for other people to try, if you'd like to, put something else out. But I'll bring food, and that'll make it easier for you. And also, I know that I'll be able to, eat comfortably. So is that okay with you? And that also works a lot of the time. And people are often relieved that they don't have to think through what they
Mhm.
might make, and have to deal with it. So that often works.
Yeah.
In I do encounter the people who really, really want to try to make something vegan, though, and then I have to worry about the spoon issue.
When you show up a little bit early, hang out in the kitchen, "Hey, do you
Yeah,
need anything?"
yeah. Can I wash that spoon?
But on the flip side of that, I guess we have the ability to expose people to a lot of different foods that they've never tried before,
That's
and,
true.
so that's kind of a neat thing that we can do to provide some food for people to understand, like, this doesn't we're not eating rabbit food, right? It's not just lettuce and carrots all day. There's so many wonderful things.
Absolutely.
And how much has it changed since you first went vegetarian to
When
now?
I first started to be vegetarian back in the late 1970s, there were very few vegan options, or even vegetarian options that were any good. There were not. Now you go into the supermarket and it's just incredible. You see whole aisles of food. But then you would, if you wanted some sort of a burger, they sold this thing, a textured vegetable protein, TVP, and it was like cardboard. It was like torn up pieces of cardboard, and you no matter how you really worked it, no matter what else you put in it, it still tasted like cardboard. So when I think back on how far we've really come with, the alternatives, that um, I don't really need the alternatives. I managed fine for years just eating, vegetables and fruits. But it is kind of nice to have something that kind of has a burger feel to it, or cheese dips and that kind of thing. And so it is nice to have these alternatives available.
You mentioned the TVP, and I just want to bring up, do you want to tell us a story about when your dad tried to use TVP to make you a version of his meatballs, was it?
Yeah, he experimented with the TVP. He would make my dad would make Welsh dishes that he learned how to make from his grandmother, and his whole family had come over from Wales, so he knew how to make these things. And in his retirement he took up cooking and really enjoyed making these things, but a lot of them were very meat based and cheese based. And what he always called Welsh pasties, I always thought they were Welsh. I didn't know until years later that maybe they were originally Cornish, but the Welsh miners, they took them down the mines as well. And they were made with meat, chopped meat or something like that, and onions and things like that. So he experimented to make things for me to because he was interested in my vegetarian experiment, and he took great pleasure in using the TVP and other things to try to make alternative recipes for those dishes. And sometimes he hit it and it was really delicious. Other times, not so good. But I remember that very well about my dad, and his effort to try to accommodate my vegetarianism at the time.
One of the first vegan things I tried to make when I was learning how to cook, because when I went vegetarian, I could not cook lentil loaf. That's like a
Oh,
thing, right? And you think back to what do people think about vegetarians in the 80s? They were eating lentil loaf. And I love lentils now, but there was something about trying to mash it together with those vegetables that I probably didn't cook properly. I'm so glad I didn't serve that to anyone else, because they would have been like, there's no way. You're not going to stick with this. You can't eat this. This is garbage.
yeah, yeah.
Wonder if I should challenge myself to make a new lentil loaf now and see how it comes out.
Try it.
Yeah, right. That's the fun, right? We get to experiment with so many things.
That's right. And and other people will experiment with things, and it's an inspiration to try. Wow, I think I could play around with that and make it even better.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing you can get at the grocery store right now? Favorite vegan, maybe even a version of something you loved before you went vegetarian.
There are so many wonderful things now that the list is just long. I recently discovered these Jamaican spicy Jamaican meat pies. They're made with, I think, Beyond Meat or something like that. Um, they're just absolutely delicious, just delicious. Um, I buy a lot of Amy's products. I think probably every vegan has Amy's as a go-to.
Yep.
They make so many wonderful. I mean, almost. I don't think I've ever had anything from Amy's that wasn't good.
Mhm.
They do make things that have cheese and milk ingredients, but I think probably most of what they make is vegan. So
And very clearly labeled, which is so nice.
very clearly labeled. So they have this rice mac and cheese that they offer, which to me tastes like mac and cheese. It's
Mhm.
really wonderful. I guess it's been enough years where I don't really remember what the sort of the vegetarian or meat eater version of some of these things are. So to me, they just taste wonderful and they taste very authentic. I don't know if a meat eater or a cheese eater would agree, but to me, they taste wonderful. I
Yeah,
mean, I have we how many different kinds of vegan ice cream do we have now?
I know.
It's incredible. I have vegan almond milk chocolate pudding.
Mm,
Oh, it's just
so
wonderful.
good.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. And then of course you can make sandwiches because we have, you know, Tofurkey has sliced things in Ives or Eves. They also, there's another brand. They have bologna, plant-based bologna and plant-based ham and these kinds of things. Um, and you can of course get cheese that's just outstanding. The chow cheese is,
Oh, it's one of
isn't it
my
wonderful?
favorites.
Yeah, you can. So I can make I can make like a turkey and cheese sandwich, and the best vegan mayo is actually Hellman's. Believe it to me, well, my
Hmm.
opinion.
Yeah,
There
I like
are
that one
now
too.
a number of brands, but I tried the Hellman's and I thought, my goodness, that tastes just like the old Hellman's to
Yeah.
me, anyway. So, uh, I mean, I could go on. There are so many brands, so many different kinds of food that are now available in the supermarket. Do I have a favorite? I don't think I could choose one of them. I I love them all.
My favorite of the tofurkey, I thought I was buying like a turkey version, but it's actually pastrami and it's like peppered. And I was surprised. So I like to pair that with either one of the chow cheeses or, and I was never a fan of this when I ate cow cheese, the follow your heart Gouda. I
Okay.
can't believe how good that cheese is. And it melts so well, and you make grilled cheese out of it. Oh, it's so good. And the best part about all this, you can find so many of these things in a regular grocery store, right? You don't have to go to Whole Foods.
It is incredible. ShopRite,
Mm-hmm.
Wegmans, these are the local New Jersey supermarkets. I mean, they have whole aisles full of this food.
Yeah.
And it when you go into to buy milk and you see that what used to be all cow milk, now the cow milk is maybe half or less, and
Yeah.
the rest of it is almond milk and flax milk and soy milk and cashew milk.
Mhm.
I mean, just every imaginable thing, and then they've got like flavors, like a vanilla soy milk and
And chocolate.
soy milk chocolate and soy milk light, low cal in it. I mean, so it's, and you have to laugh and smile when you see it because you think back, 10 years ago, well, 9 years ago when I started being vegan, or go back further, and we had next to nothing
Mhm.
really. We're taking over the world.
We are. The future is vegan, as they
Future is
say, right?
vegan. Yes.
Do you have any tips or pointers for people who are considering going vegan or brand new vegans that are trying to get a handle on all this?
Well, I guess I would say invest the time when you first become vegan. Just plan on investing time in the supermarket reading labels. Just go up and down the aisle reading labels and seeing what is and what's in the ingredients that are in things. Try many different things. Decide what you like. But after you do this, and do your research as well in terms of what you know what you need to have and sort of in a good balanced vegan diet, and then go to the supermarket and buy, of course you've got your fresh fruits and vegetables, right?
Right.
So
Don't
I mean
neglect those.
that's I mean that's sort of baseline, but when we're talking about the other types of things, read the labels, and then once you identify what you can eat, and then from that what you really enjoy, then you can almost go on autopilot. You go into the supermarket and you know exactly what you want to buy and what works, what doesn't work, and the amount of time you spend reading the labels goes down a lot. So it may seem overwhelming at first, but invest that time to learn, and then it just becomes just second nature. You go into the market and you know exactly what you need and you want. I would also say, I would also recommend, this is maybe controversial, I'm not sure.
Hmm.
I take vitamin supplements. I have done that, well, even when I was vegetarian, I did,
Hmm.
and and I've only increased them since I became vegan, because things like, vitamin B12, and yes, it's probably possible to get that from, certain types of vegan foods, but you really have to make a huge effort to be sure that you eat those foods,
Hmm.
and in the quantity necessary. And I think it's probably a major task to keep up with that. And it's so easy now to buy vegan supplements,
Hmm.
so make sure that you've got, your vitamin B, B covered, and D, and calcium, maybe depending on your circumstances. What do you call that? The ALA, the fish oil. It's not,
Like
it's,
DHA type.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Uh-huh.
exactly. It's people get it from fish oil, but the fish get it from the algae, so we can go right to the source. But things like that, might not be otherwise in your diet,
Hmm.
without great, not too many people are going to eat the algae. So so I would say just plan on taking the supplements. They I have my blood work done every year, and I have a vitamin panel, and I'm good. I'm good. I don't know if it's because of that isn't proof that the supplements work. Maybe other people would say, argue that they don't work, or that they're not necessary. And that's why I say it might be a bit controversial.
Mhm.
Um, but you asked me what my advice is,
Yeah.
and my advice is to take vitamin supplements and do your own research to see what works for you, and try different brands. Some of them are a bit pricey, some of them cost less, but whatever works for you. And there are vegan versions of all of these vitamins that you can buy.
Yeah.
So there too, you need to do your research and read the labels and make sure that the vitamin supplement doesn't contain any non-vegan ingredients.
Right. They all, so many have gelatin, right? So you have to be
Absolutely.
careful.
So yeah, exactly. So if you if you're going to get a gel cap, then make sure that it's a vegan gel cap and not made from gelatin, and so forth.
Yeah.
The binder, all those things that they put in there that aren't necessarily the supplement itself. Just make sure that they're all vegan ingredients. And it's very easy now. I mean, there are brands that sort of just focus on offering that type of thing for vegans. Yeah, and then I would say maybe give it give it time. Give it 6 months. Your body will change over that 6 month time period. You'll see that there are very subtle changes that take place, and so stay with it. Stay
Mhm.
with it. Give it. Don't. You know. And if you're doing it, not because you want to be a plant-based eater, but because you want to be vegan, then you understand that it's for the animals that you're doing and not for yourself. And and the effort, you'll make whatever effort is necessary to find the right path, so that you're eating well, delicious food, healthy food, balanced food, balanced diet. And
Mhm.
you'll find that spot for yourself if you're committed, and because you understand that we don't want to kill animals, or even use them.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I think it is more significant when we find something bigger than ourselves. I mean, how many people are constantly on diets because they want to lose weight and then they fall off because the idea of, let's say, chocolate cake is just more important than wearing a size 4 that day. But when your motivation is to not contribute to the suffering of these defenseless sentient beings who suffer so much at the hands of humans.
Absolutely.
When you take that out, you said earlier, what a relief, right?
Yes.
It's
It's just it's such a relief to know that you're not causing harm.
yeah, what a beautiful thing.
Hmm, it is.
I did want to I have two comments on what you had just said. One about the supplements. So I too I take a daily multivitamin. The ones I take right now are kind of pricey. They're the Kind Life ones, the Alicia Silverstone. They're gummies, and of course they're completely vegan because Alicia, everything she does is vegan. Um, but I find that when I'm taking vitamins just as pills, it's so easy for me to forget them. But when I feel almost like they're a treat, it's easy for me to remember to take my gummies. So those are a little on the higher end of the price point when you're looking at multivitamins, but I do take that every day. I take DHA at night. I can't remember the brand, but I'll make sure to leave it in the show notes. Those are vegan as well. I don't know if it's in my head or whatever, but I feel like I can taste the seaweed flavor of the DHA, so I take them when I go to bed so I don't have to live with that.
Yes, I understand.
And I take B12 here and there. There is B12 in the Kind Life multivitamins, and then I take some additional, once a week or so. Um, and so, yeah, I know that there are a lot of people that are like, you can get everything from your food. But, honestly, I think everybody needs to be taking multivitamins. If you eat animals, you're still missing things.
That's
So,
that's true. It would be good for everyone to take
yeah.
multivitamins, or I use the Nordic Naturals algae omega, and
Okay.
that has the omega 3.
Hmm.
And I just, to get to that point, I just went online and I did a comparison of all the vegan options available, and this one, which is again a higher price point, but it looked to me like the best, yeah, so I got that. I use the Mega Food calcium, and then
Hmm.
I have the Garden of Life. Do you know that brand?
Hmm.
Yeah, I use
Oh,
that.
that's what it is. I think that's the multivitamin I take, not Kind
Okay,
Life.
yeah,
Yeah.
I take it's My Kind or something.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's Alicia Silverstone's brand.
yes, I
Yep.
Garden of Life, and I take the men's once daily, which is
Okay.
my multivitamin, and then separately I take the raw B12 from the Garden of Life,
Mhm.
same manufacturer,
Good stuff.
and
And you can even get these on Amazon and do a subscribe and save if that's where you get your things from, and they just
absolutely
show up
can.
at your door
Yep.
once a month.
They're widely available, and I think they're excellent. As I say, my blood tests always show, the vitamin panel always shows that I'm within the normal range.
Mhm.
So
And then when you were talking about how, give it some time, your body will change. Be prepared because if you don't usually eat a lot of beans and vegetables, right? There's going to be some noise. And maybe even an increase in the visit to the bathroom. I remember I was at Mushu's in New York City early 2000s, and they had up at the register a bunch of stickers and things and buttons, and one of them said like, yes, I'm vegan, yes, I poop 5 times a day. So as you increase your bean and vegetable intake, for sure, you will feel a difference. But drink a lot of water, and that helps a lot.
and they do make the I'm not sure, I don't remember the brand, I don't need it, but during the first 6 months when I first became vegan, and I had a lot of gas, and I would take I'm not sure the brand was Beano, but it was one of the enzymes, and it helps you to digest, and reduces the gas quite a bit. So, and then, as I say, my body changed after 6 months. I didn't need that anymore.
Yeah.
I sort of just, I guess I just adapted to higher fiber and all that comes with being vegan.
Hmm.
So
So, David, I'd like to ask you your perspective on pets, right? Some people think, well, if you're vegan, you must want to have a house full of pets, or or do you not want pets? What's your take on that?
right. Well, my personal preference is not to have pets. I did have pets in the past. I had a wonderful dog who died in 2002. That's the last time that I had an animal companion. He was beautiful. The vet told me that I should not attempt to take meat out of his diet, but I did. And he was a Samoyed, a rescue. He was a rescue, um, and he lived a full lifespan, was healthy and happy. So I think the vet actually became convinced that dogs can live and nicely and be healthy without eating meat. Now, I was vegetarian at the time, so I would, if I made an omelet for myself, I would make one for the dog as well, and he would have eggs. So he wasn't really a vegan,
Mhm.
although I understand that you can actually give a dog a vegan diet. And cats, of course, are obligate carnivores, so you're not. It's probably not a good idea. I wouldn't have a cat because I simply would not want to handle that kind of food that they eat. I don't want anything to do with it. And um, but having any animal is problematic for me in many other respects. So I'm not. I don't know how. I'm not comfortable in owning another being.
Mhm.
you know we keep them as companions, and that I understand, and I'm not faulting anyone who has pets. It's a wonderful thing, and to have love from a dog or a cat or any other animal is really beautiful. It's just that I'm not entirely comfortable with keeping animals. um, I get a lot of people, vegans, who assume that, of course, I'm going to be involved in animal rescue and I'm going to adopt animals and have a house full of animals myself. And again, I think it's wonderful that people do that kind of thing. I have no problem with it. It's just that I don't want to do that. I
Mhm.
don't, that's not something that I I have no problem with paying some money, contributing money to help spay and neuter, to reduce the populations, and certainly politically to do away with dog breeders and that kind of thing. I'm happy to be involved in all those kinds of things. But in terms of being like very actively involved with animal rescue, no, I'm not. I'm not, and I would not likely be.
I think that's helpful, especially for people who are considering going vegan, and maybe even people who are like, well, I don't really like animals, or I don't, not that you're saying that, but I don't have this want to have them in my life or be involved that way. So why would I go vegan? Well, because of all these other things, because of the cruelty and everything we don't want to contribute to. But also it's important for people to know that they don't have to be that. You can be vegan and not involved in animal rescue, not involved in
Absolutely
animal
right.
rights.
Absolutely true. And many people, as as you know, many people who are involved in animal rescue aren't vegan, which I would think would present some cognitive dissonance for them. But I guess not. Somehow they manage those they manage that problem somehow. But for me, um, it's I just can't imagine that somebody would be involved in uh, animal rights without and still be eating them.
Mhm.
But but I know it happens. So
I've been baffled by the invitations over the course of years where, from a shelter where they rescue dogs and cats, like, oh, we're having this event to raise money to help the animals we have, or to bring in more animals, save animals from these situations. And it's like a lunch or a barbecue, and it's all animals.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not a vegan spread at all. How
and
are
that they
you
and
not?
that they don't see the irony is
Yeah.
one of the, there's just this huge blind spot about it, I suppose.
Yeah, like you rescue a dog. Why aren't you rescuing cows? Like
Yeah,
they're ultimately, we all feel the same pain.
that's right. That's what it's about, isn't it?
We live with 3 cats. We we lived with 4. My eldest cat passed away back in September, and I am still devastated.
Yeah.
It's so hard and so painful. And the other 3 cats, so she I had adopted from a shelter 12 years ago. And I call her my daughter, my baby. I don't care that she wasn't human. Um, but the 3 cats who live here now, they showed up. We brought them in from outside. One had been a TNR. She has the tipped ear. So we knew, and she was spayed when we brought her to the vet. They said, yeah, she's definitely been spayed. The other 2, they were babies and they were just out. And, where I live in New Jersey, up in Northwest New Jersey, there's a lot of farms around here. People do let their cats out. And that is a whole other thing about the irresponsibility of people who have cats who live in their homes and they let them outside. But so these cats, they had no home, so we brought them in, and it is very difficult having to feed them every day because
Yeah.
they are obligate carnivores. And even though, they get canned food, like our cats don't eat dry kibble at all. So we are scooping out, the canned food, and it's so hard. You have to make that decision, right? That to know that you're still contributing because you have to feed your cats, and you can't feed your cats a vegan diet. We're
No.
not there yet. They haven't figured out how to make a vegan version of the obligate carnivore diet. Um, and I love cats, so it's so hard. I lived with a rabbit years ago, and that was wonderful because we could eat, I'd make my dinner, make a little salad for her, and she would eat the scraps, and that felt good. I didn't have to give her
Sure.
any.
I understand that.
But it is, and this is a conversation my husband and I have had quite a few times about, well, what do you do if how do you put this together? Like, do you not call yourself vegan? I don't know, because if we look at the definition of veganism, it's as far as is possible and practicable, right?
Right.
So, if we drive cars, would we not call ourselves vegan because there's, fat from pigs in the tires, things like that. So for me, I say, no, I'm still vegan. We gave these cats a home. We have to feed them this way because we need to honor who they are and their own being. I don't see them as something I own, even though the government still sees them as something I own. They are their own little, sentient beings living here in my house. But anyway, I think this was an important thing to bring up because the audience, I think, are mostly people who are not vegan yet. And I'd hate for someone to come up against this either because they don't have any interest in having pets or because they do and they feel like, well, that doesn't make me vegan. It's so important for them to see that we can do it both ways
Yeah.
and be mindful of what we're doing.
Your comment about the definition of being vegan and as far as practicable reminds me of some of the criticism that I've received from people who want to push back against vegans and will point out that we're riding in a car that may have some sort of non-vegan ingredient, or we get in a some sort of an Uber and it has leather seats, and and of course we ride in it, and we and on and on. I mean, because we have institutional carnism, really. I mean, that this is the world that we find ourselves in, and we have to live in this world, and we can only take it as far as we can.
Mhm.
And those that would insist on our perfection in this, um, it's actually a logical fallacy. It's called the nirvana fallacy. Um, and it, 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 it suggests that if you can't attain this absolute state of perfection, that anything less, of course, proves that what you're doing isn't right or isn't correct or valuable. And so I always keep handy that link to the Wikipedia link to the nirvana fallacy, so that I can show them exactly why their argument fails. No, we're not perfect. No, yes, there are, when the combine goes through the field to harvest our food, probably some insects and small animals might be killed in that process. And no, veganism isn't perfect. And, we're not at the level of zero harm, and we can't possibly ever be.
Right.
Even if you breathe, you're probably inhaling some sort of living thing. Maybe not with a brain and maybe not sentient, but you simply can't walk on the earth without ever potentially stepping on an ant or a small insect. Or we will never reach that state of perfection that people insist
Mm-hmm.
vegans must achieve. So it's in our intent. Our intent is to cause as little harm as possible. And that is what it is for me anyway, is to minimize that harm as much as I can, and still live in the world and understand that I still have to drive to work, or just exist in this world where
Exactly.
carnism is the institutional norm. I just wanted to throw that in because when you mentioned the definition of veganism, it's very important that people not look at us and think that we have to achieve some level of perfection in order to be true vegans.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We're not asking anyone to be perfect. Just let's do the best that we can. And every time we learn something new, do better.
Absolutely. And I also say to non-vegans who are either critical or sometimes even just exploring, say to them, look, for the first 23 years of my life, I still ate meat, and I deserved to be loved as a person every bit as much when I was 22 and still eating meat as when I was 24 and no longer ate meat. I mean, or today. I mean, you're still very much entitled to be loved and respected. But we all need to understand and examine our lives and the things that we do. If you really want to express your love, then the best way to do that is to look at how you can lessen the harm you cause in this world to other people, to other animals. To At least that's the way I try to live.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. So, as we kind of wind down, I have two more questions for you. And the
Okay.
first is, what are some resources you would recommend, either books or websites for new or exploring vegans?
Oh, well, I don't have any specific book or website to recommend, but I will tell you what I have found to be a very useful resource. This is my go-to. I'm on Facebook, as many of us are, and I'm in a number of vegan groups in New Jersey, vegan groups in the UK, all just vegan vegans who like these particular political parties, whatever it is.
Mhm.
um, and those groups are a valuable resource. And I'll give you an example of how I actually used it. And my sister was going to make mashed potatoes for me for some holiday meal, and normally she would have made them with cow milk. So she said, well, what should I put in there? I thought, okay, well, I'm not sure what the best kind of plant milk is to use. And I was actually in the supermarket ready to buy. I took out my phone and I put it, I think it was probably in one of the New Jersey vegan groups. And I just, because they know what's available in our local markets. And I
Yeah.
just said, to make mashed potatoes, what do you recommend as the best plant-based milk to use? And I mean, I just did the rest of my shopping, and while the notifications went off, and I probably had half a dozen recommendations from people, and the winner was, I think it was cashew milk actually was the
Nice and
winner.
creamy.
Yeah, exactly. That had the most people suggesting it. So I bought cashew milk, and it was wonderful. But that was like on the spot, instantaneous, and I had this resource right in my phone of all of these vegans, these people, local vegans who just lit up my phone with suggestions. And so that, I think, join a group, or multiple groups. And
Mhm.
when you have a question, put it out there. People are always willing to help. You'll find some groups that you might want to get out of because the people are very judgmental. And if you ask a question and you don't phrase it correctly, then vegans will eat each other alive. We've all seen that, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. So some groups, maybe you have people who are just ready to pounce, but many vegans are really genuinely interested in helping. And if you ask for a recommendation like I did, that you'll get the advice you need.
Hmm. Yeah, we do love talking about food and helping people see
Yes.
how amazing and easy it is to be vegan for sure. And so my final question for you, what's your favorite brand of hummus and favorite way to eat it?
Ah, well, I have to say that I've never met a hummus I didn't like.
Me too.
I I've I'll eat hummus every day, and any brand. I will tell you though that we are fortunate, I think, in this country, or at least I've just got. Maybe we just have a taste for hummus done in a particular way, smooth and creamy, and with a
Mhm.
particular texture and thickness. But I was in Southeast Asia, and it's not common there. People don't eat hummus generally, but I was in a city. I think it was in Malaysia, and I can't remember exactly where it was, but the hummus that they made was like very loose and watery and not creamy, and had was like even a little lumpy, and
Oh, they
and
try.
it was a Middle Eastern, supposedly a Middle Eastern restaurant, but not like any Middle Eastern restaurant that I've ever visited in New Jersey, or where the hummus is as you would expect. And that was the only time, I think, in my life that I thought, oh, this is not good hummus. I ate it anyway, of course, but because it wasn't horrible. It just said that was the least good, let's say.
Mm.
And it was the only hummus I think I saw in my travels in Southeast Asia. Here, in what do I like the best? Well, um, again, this I'll buy sometimes by price, because I think the ingredients are pretty basic, and still there's a taste difference, as we all know,
Yeah.
from one brand to the other. But I like most of them, so I'll tend, maybe on this particular product, to buy something maybe less costly
Okay.
um, when I buy the hummus. And Aldi's actually has a very reasonably priced hummus. Um, I think it's called Park Street Deli brand. I mean, it's not really a name brand, but they sell it. It's very reasonably priced, and I think it's maybe $2 for this that sort of standard size
Mhm.
small container, and it's delicious. It's wonderful. My favorite way to eat it. Okay, well, I have two. Um, One is I buy these jars of green olives stuffed with garlic cloves.
Oh.
I know. I mean, I love olives and I love garlic. So, so right there is like, I'm in heaven to begin with. But then I take a fork, I'll just sit there in front of the television, and I'll take a fork and stick that olive and then a big tub of hummus, and then I'll just dip it into the hummus so that it's coated in wonderful hummus. Oh, it's heavenly. It's
Yeah.
heavenly.
That sounds like a real flavor explosion.
It really is. It really is. That and you've got so many textures and tastes going on, and it's not spicy, it's mild, but it's still very flavorful, and that's my favorite way. I'll also do the same thing with cherry tomatoes. I'll dip the cherry tomatoes into the hummus, and I'll always have a piece of like pita bread nearby, just to just to maybe give a little different texture and another way to scoop up the wonderful hummus.
However you can get it in there, right?
Yeah, exactly right. But my favorite definitely is the garlic stuffed green olives.
Yeah, wow.
Hummus. Woo-wee.
Sounds amazing.
It's delicious.
I always say here that we don't eat hummus by the serving, we eat it by the tub.
Same here. Once it's opened, it's going.
Yep, one sitting.
True.
David, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's been my pleasure. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so
wonderful.
much.
Thank you. As you can tell by the laughter, we had a great time discussing all things vegan. David provided some incredible insights and some fun stories. Find me on Facebook or Instagram under Did You Bring the Hummus for a complete list and the links to all we mentioned here today. I hope you have found this episode helpful and inspiring. If you have questions or are a vegan who would like to be interviewed on a future episode, please email me at didyoubringthehummus@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.